Most people begin their lives focused on the wrong question. They ask, what should I do? What career should I choose? What title should I chase? What goal should I hit next? And while those questions feel practical, they are also limiting. Because when life becomes difficult, and it always does, those questions stop giving us strength. A job can disappear. A role can change. A goal can lose its shine. And when that happens, if all you have is what you do, you're left unanchored. The people who build lives that outlast them start somewhere else entirely. They start by asking why. Not in a poetic or abstract way, but in a deeply human one. Why does my life exist beyond survival? Why should anyone be better because I was here? Why should my actions matter when I am no longer around to defend them? Purpose is not a slogan. It is not something you discover overnight. It is something you commit to uncovering. And that commitment changes how you make decisions. When you know why you exist, your choices become clearer. You stop chasing everything and start choosing what aligns. You stop reacting to pressure and start responding with intention. Without a clear why, we become excellent at staying busy, but terrible at building meaning. We fill our calendars, hit milestones, and still feel an emptiness we can't explain, because fulfillment doesn't come from progress alone. It comes from progress in the right direction, and direction only comes from knowing why you're moving at all. A life that outlasts you is not built on accomplishments. It is built on consistency of belief. People may forget what you achieved, but they will remember what you stood for. They will remember how you made decisions when it was inconvenient. They will remember whether you acted with courage when fear was the easier option. When your why is clear, you stop measuring success by applause. You stop needing everyone to agree with you. You become willing to be misunderstood for a while in service of something that matters for a long time. And that is uncomfortable because clarity of purpose often costs you popularity. But it gives you something far more valuable: trust. Trust is what allows ideas to travel beyond a single lifetime. Trust is what makes people carry your values forward, even when you are no longer in the room. And trust is built when your actions repeatedly align with your why, especially when it would be easier not to. There will be moments when choosing purpose feels like a disadvantage, moments when cutting corners would bring faster results, moments when silence would be safer than speaking up. And in those moments, the question is never, what will I gain? The question is, what will this cost the people who come after me if I don't act? Because the true measure of a life is not what it accumulates, but what it enables. Did your presence make others stronger? Did your choices create space for others to grow? Did your example give people permission to act with integrity even when it was hard? A clear why turns life into service, not sacrifice. It reframes effort as contribution. You stop asking how much you can get away with and start asking how much responsibility you are willing to carry. And responsibility, when chosen willingly, becomes a source of pride rather than pressure. When people live without a why, they chase balance. When people live with a why, they chase alignment. Balance asks how to divide time. Alignment asks how to live in truth. And alignment has a strange effect. It gives people energy even when they are tired, hope even when results are slow, and patience when the outcome is uncertain. The irony is that when you stop trying to build a legacy, you often create one, because legacy is not something you aim for. It is a byproduct of living with intention. It is what happens when your why becomes so clear that others begin to adopt it as their own. Long after strategies fail and trends fade, purpose remains, and the people who inherit your work, your children, your teams, your community, won't ask what you achieved. They will ask why you chose the way you did. And if your why was strong enough, it will guide them even in your absence. Building a life that outlasts you does not require fame or scale. It requires clarity and courage. Clarity to know why you exist. Courage to live in alignment with it every day, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Because in the end, your life is not a resume. It is a signal. And the strongest signal you can send into the future is this: I knew why I was here, and I lived like it mattered. We live in a world obsessed with winning. Winning arguments, winning markets, winning attention, winning faster than everyone else. From the time we're young, we are taught that life is a competition with clear finish lines. Get the grade, get the job, get the promotion, get the recognition, and once you win, you move on to the next race. But the problem is this: life doesn't end when you win, And it doesn't stop when you lose. Life keeps going, which means most of us are playing it as if it's a short game, even though it's not. The people who build lives that outlast them understand something most never stop to question. Life is not a finite game with known players, fixed rules, and a clear winner. Life is infinite. The players change, the rules evolve, and the goal is not to win, it's to continue. When you believe life is finite, you optimize for speed. You take shortcuts. You prioritize results over relationships. You choose optics over honesty. And sometimes you even sacrifice your values to stay ahead, because in a finite game, the only thing that matters is the scoreboard. But infinite-minded people don't chase the scoreboard. They build something worth continuing. They don't ask, how do I beat others? They ask, how do I build something that survives me? Short-term thinking creates fragile success. It looks impressive until pressure is applied. One disruption, one failure, one change in conditions, and it collapses. Long-term thinking creates resilience. It assumes uncertainty, it plans for change, it leaves room for people to grow into something bigger than the original vision. When you play the infinite game, you stop asking how fast you can grow and start asking how strong you can become. You stop chasing momentum and start building stability. You accept that progress may be slow, uneven, and sometimes invisible, but meaningful. This way of thinking requires patience in a world addicted to immediacy. It requires humility in a culture that rewards ego. And it requires courage, because the results are rarely instant and rarely celebrated. But here's what infinite players understand. Fast success is easy to copy. Deep impact is not. Anyone can imitate tactics. Very few can replicate values lived consistently over time. And values are what give people direction when rules change and plans fail. They are what guide decisions when there is no instruction manual. They are what allow others to continue the work without needing permission. Short-term thinking asks, what works now? Infinite thinking asks, what will still work when I'm gone? That question changes everything. It changes how you treat people. You stop seeing them as resources and start seeing them as stewards. You invest in their growth, not just their output. You understand that if people don't feel safe, valued, and trusted, nothing you build will survive leadership transitions or difficult seasons. It changes how you respond to failure. In a finite game, failure is something to hide. In an infinite game, failure is information. It teaches, it refines, it strengthens. Infinite players don't quit when they fall behind. They adapt, they learn, they stay in the game. And it changes how you define success. Success is no longer about being the best. It becomes about being better than you were yesterday while leaving the door open for others to be better tomorrow. The most dangerous leaders and the most fragile lives are built on the need to win now. Because when winning becomes the goal, ethics become negotiable. People become expendable. And once trust is broken, it doesn't matter how impressive the result was, the game ends anyway. But when staying in the game becomes the goal, trust becomes the strategy. Decisions are made with future generations in mind. You ask how your actions today will affect people you may never meet. And that sense of responsibility keeps you grounded when temptation appears. Building an infinite life means accepting that you may never see the full impact of your work. You plant seeds knowing you won't sit in the shade. You build structures others will improve. You create cultures others will inherit. And that can feel unsatisfying if your ego needs credit. But it is deeply fulfilling if your purpose is service. History is shaped not by those who burned bright and disappeared, but by those who built slowly and endured. The ones who refused to trade longevity for applause. The ones who understood that lasting things are rarely loud in the beginning. Infinite thinking does not mean avoiding ambition. It means anchoring ambition to something bigger than yourself. It means measuring progress not only by what you achieve, but by what continues without you pushing it forward. When your life is designed to outlast you, you become less reactive and more intentional. You stop chasing every opportunity and start protecting the mission. You understand that saying no is often the most strategic decision you can make, and perhaps most importantly, infinite thinking frees you from comparison. Because when there is no finish line, there is no one to beat. There is only work to be done, people to support, standards to uphold. A life built this way may not look impressive in the short term, but it becomes unshakable in the long term. And long after titles fade and trends change, what remains is this: a way of thinking, a way of leading, a way of living that others continue, not because they were forced to, but because it works. That is how lives outlast lifetimes. Not by winning the moment, but by staying in the game. We live in a world that measures success by what you take, by how much you accumulate, and by how loudly you announce it. From a young age, we are told to look out for ourselves first, to get ahead, to climb, to win, to achieve. And while ambition is not wrong, the relentless focus on personal gain comes at a cost that is rarely discussed. Because when life gets hard, when systems fail, when people disappoint you, and when the applause fades, all the accumulation in the world does not sustain you. All the titles, all the trophies, all the recognition, they do not fill the space that human connection, trust, and influence create. The people whose lives outlast them understand a principle that is both simple and radical. You cannot build a lasting life by serving only yourself. You must serve others. Not because it is convenient, not because it brings instant rewards, but because it is the only path to something that truly matters. People over personal gain is not a philosophy you adopt on the surface. It is a lens through which every decision, every relationship, every investment of time and energy is evaluated. When you prioritize people over personal gain, your actions begin to ripple beyond yourself. You start thinking less about what you can get and more about what you can give. You invest in those around you, not because you expect a return, but because you understand that human potential is the only currency that truly appreciates over time. You mentor without the expectation of recognition. You share opportunities without hesitation. You listen when no one else is listening. And in doing so, you create a network of trust, loyalty, and influence that cannot be bought. Putting people first is not easy. It requires patience in a culture obsessed with speed. It requires humility in a world obsessed with self-promotion. It requires courage in moments when the easier choice would be to take credit, to guard your resources, or to protect your ego. And it requires faith. Faith that investing in others, even when there is no immediate payoff, is always the wiser choice. Because the truth is, a life focused on self-interest is fragile. It may rise quickly, but it will also fall quickly. A life built on the foundation of others, on nurturing, empowering, and uplifting, endures. This principle changes how you define achievement. It changes the meaning of success from the sum of what you acquire to the sum of what you enable. It reframes influence not as a tool to get more, but as a responsibility to give more. It turns leadership from authority over others to stewardship for them. And it transforms ordinary interactions into extraordinary opportunities to make a difference. When you prioritize people, you create environments where innovation thrives, trust deepens, and resilience strengthens. You learn that the most valuable outcomes are rarely immediate and rarely obvious. You learn that your impact cannot be measured by a single metric, but by the cumulative effect of relationships, guidance, and support that you cultivate over time. And yet, the world constantly tempts you to choose differently. It tells you to focus on personal gain. It rewards self-interest with recognition and short-term wins. It glorifies achievement over contribution, and it whispers that generosity is weakness. But every long-lasting life proves otherwise. Every legacy proves otherwise. Those who matter in the long run are remembered not for the wealth they accumulated or the accolades they earned, but for the lives they touched, the people they lifted, and the trust they inspired. Putting people first does not mean neglecting yourself or your goals. It does not mean becoming passive or giving endlessly without thought. It means aligning your ambitions with the growth and well-being of others. It means seeing the bigger picture, understanding that your life is interconnected with the lives of those around you. And it means recognizing that when you lift others, you elevate yourself in ways that last far beyond the moment. When you lead with people in mind, you change the culture around you. You model behavior that others emulate. You create systems where generosity, accountability, and collaboration are not optional but expected. You inspire others to act with integrity, even when no one is watching. And you create momentum that is impossible to achieve through self-interest alone. because the human spirit is drawn to authenticity. It responds to care. It multiplies when nurtured. There will be moments when putting people first feels costly, moments when it might seem easier to prioritize your own success, moments when the path of generosity requires patience in the face of impatience, courage in the face of fear, and persistence in the face of indifference. And in those moments, the question is not, what can I gain? The question is, what kind of impact do I want to leave behind? The most enduring leaders, the ones who shape lives long after they are gone, are not those who sought fame, fortune, or applause. They are the ones who understood that their value was multiplied when it was shared. They knew that empowering others created strength, trust, and resilience that could outlive any single achievement. They built networks of people, not hierarchies of titles. They created legacies of influence, not monuments of self-interest. A life focused on people over personal gain is not glamorous. It is not flashy. It is often slow and unseen, but it is powerful, it is enduring, and it is impossible to ignore. Because the effect of one person choosing to serve, to mentor, to empower, and to invest in others can multiply across decades, across communities, and across generations. So ask yourself, every day, am I building for myself or for others? Am I chasing recognition, or am I creating trust? Am I seeking personal gain, or am I empowering those around me to reach their potential? Because every choice, no matter how small, sends a signal. And over a lifetime, those signals compound into a legacy. The truth is, nothing we achieve matters in the long term unless it is shared, amplified, and carried forward by others. A title, a paycheck, a recognition, these all fade. But the lives you touch, the people you lift, the trust you create, and the courage you inspire, these endure. They echo long after you are gone. And they form the foundation of a life that truly outlasts you. When your focus shifts from personal gain to the growth and well-being of others, everything changes. Your relationships deepen, your influence expands, your work becomes meaningful, and your life becomes a blueprint for others to follow. You leave a legacy that cannot be stolen, bought, or erased. You leave a life that continues to give even when you are no longer here to see it. Putting people over personal gain is not optional if you want your life to matter beyond your own lifetime. It is the cornerstone of lasting influence. It is the essence of leadership, and it is the path to a life that, long after you are gone, continues to inspire, strengthen, and uplift. We often think of success as a series of achievements, milestones, or accolades. We measure it in promotions, paychecks, awards, or recognition. And while those markers can feel satisfying in the moment, they are fleeting, they are temporary, they are fragile, they can be taken away, forgotten, or rendered meaningless by circumstances beyond our control. If your life is built solely on these outcomes, it is like building a house on sand. It may look impressive, but it cannot withstand the storms that inevitably come. The people who create lives that outlast them understand a different truth. Success is not an event. It is not a trophy to collect or a title to earn. Success is a system. Success is a set of principles, habits, and values that are ingrained into how you live and work every day. When your life is guided by systems and values, your impact does not depend on circumstance, popularity, or luck. It depends on consistency, integrity, and foresight. And those are things that can endure even when you are no longer present. Building systems means designing your life so that your values produce outcomes automatically. It means creating routines, processes, and cultures that reflect what you believe, rather than leaving everything to chance. It means asking yourself not just what you want to achieve, but how the mechanisms of your life ensure that achievement is sustainable, ethical, and meaningful. Systems remove the randomness from success and replace it with intentionality. They allow your purpose to outlive your presence. Values are the foundation of those systems. They are the non-negotiables that guide decisions when everything else is uncertain. They are the principles that protect your character when temptation appears. Values are what allow people to trust you, even when times are hard. They are what give others permission to carry forward your work when you are gone. And they are what separate those who achieve only temporary results from those who build legacies. Too often, people focus on short-term wins. They chase achievements without asking whether those achievements align with their core principles. They prioritize speed over integrity, profit over purpose, recognition over responsibility. And while those choices may bring immediate results, they erode trust, weaken relationships, and produce outcomes that crumble the moment pressure arrives. A life built on expedience is brittle. A life built on systems and values is resilient. Systems are not complicated. They are the small, repeatable actions that reinforce your values every day. It could be the way you communicate with your team, the way you approach learning, or the way you make decisions in high-pressure situations. Over time, these small actions compound, creating a culture and a legacy that can continue without constant oversight. People inherit not just the work you did, but the way you did it. The standards you set, the integrity you upheld, the patterns you repeated. Values are more than statements on a wall or words in a mission document. They are lived, breathed, and demonstrated in every interaction. They guide choices when no one is watching. They define how you respond when things go wrong. They anchor you when life is unpredictable, and they become the invisible thread that connects all the outcomes you create. Without them, systems fail. Without them, success is fleeting. Without them, your life is unlikely to outlast you. Building systems and values requires patience. It requires foresight. It requires the discipline to focus on long-term impact rather than immediate gratification. It is often invisible to the outside world because it is the work of preparation, training, mentoring, and modeling. It is the repeated commitment to doing the right thing even when no one notices, even when results are slow, even when shortcuts seem tempting. And this is precisely why it matters more than anything else. Because longevity is rarely glamorous. It is earned quietly, consistently, and intentionally. When your systems are strong and your values are clear, you create an environment where others can thrive. You give them a blueprint for decision-making, a framework for behavior, and the confidence to act even when circumstances are uncertain. You ensure that the work, the culture, and the purpose you built can continue long after you are gone. That is the essence of a life that outlasts you. The danger in focusing only on success is that it trains people to chase outcomes without understanding the processes that generate them. It encourages shortcuts, compromises, and reactive behavior. It teaches the next generation to value achievement over integrity, appearance over substance, and speed over sustainability. But when you invest in systems and values, you teach something far more enduring: how to act wisely, consistently, and courageously no matter what challenges arise. Systems and values are not static. They evolve, adapt, and grow as circumstances change. They are flexible frameworks, not rigid rules. And because they are rooted in principles rather than transient goals, they guide behavior even when the path is unclear. They give people a North Star to follow when strategy, leadership, or technology shifts. They give meaning to actions, context to decisions, and coherence to vision. Building a life that outlasts you means thinking beyond immediate rewards. It means asking how your influence, habits, and decisions will shape the future. It means focusing on what can survive without you. Systems and values are the bridge between your present actions and your future impact. They ensure that what you do today continues to benefit others tomorrow, and tomorrow after that. Every time you invest in creating systems and instilling values, you make yourself less indispensable but far more influential. You move from being the center of attention to being the origin of sustainability. You create a legacy that does not depend on your presence, but thrives because of the structures you built and the standards you upheld. You leave something far bigger than yourself, a life that continues to give, teach, and inspire. And perhaps the most important truth is this: building systems and values is not optional if you want your life to matter beyond your own lifetime. Achievements fade, recognition fades, influence fades. But the structures you create and the principles you live by persist. They guide, they empower, and they endure. They become the silent guardians of your legacy, ensuring that your life does not end with your physical presence. A life focused only on success is fragile. A life built on systems and values is resilient. It is not dependent on luck, timing, or external validation. It is anchored in the principles that outlast trends, survive crises, and inspire others to continue the work long after you are gone. And when you commit to this, your life gains a kind of immortality. Not through fame, but through impact. Not through wealth, but through influence. Not through applause, but through endurance. So ask yourself every day, am I building for the moment or am I building for generations? Am I chasing achievement or am I designing systems that will continue to produce results aligned with my values? Am I seeking recognition or am I cultivating principles that will guide others when I am no longer here? Because the measure of a life that outlasts you is not in what you acquire, but in what continues because of what you established. When your systems are strong and your values are clear, your life becomes more than your own. It becomes a foundation, a guide, and a source of strength for others. It becomes a life that cannot be erased, a life that cannot be forgotten, and a life that continues to create impact long after you are gone. That is the power of building systems and values, and that is the path to a life that truly outlasts you. Most people spend our lives seeking comfort. We are conditioned to avoid risk, to minimize pain, and to protect ourselves from the unknown. Comfort is safe. Comfort feels good. Comfort is predictable. And for many, a life spent in comfort feels like success. But here's the truth. Comfort does not leave a mark. Comfort does not inspire. Comfort does not endure. The world does not remember those who sought the easiest path. The world remembers those who chose courage over ease, those who acted when others hesitated, those who stood for something even when it was inconvenient, unpopular, or risky. Courage is the currency of a life that outlasts you. It is what transforms ordinary existence into extraordinary legacy. And courage is not a single act. It is not a dramatic moment captured in a headline. Courage is a series of decisions repeated over time that reflect the willingness to risk comfort for principle, certainty for possibility, and safety for significance. Every choice to act when it would be easier not to. Every decision to stand when others sit. Every moment when you prioritize what is right over what is convenient becomes proof that your life was lived intentionally and with impact. The danger of comfort is subtle. It does not scream. It lulls. It whispers that it is enough to exist, to achieve without challenge, to move through life without confrontation or risk. And if you accept this, you may find that your life is smooth but shallow. You may achieve goals, accumulate resources, and appear successful, yet leave nothing of lasting value behind. Comfort is invisible, and so too is the legacy of those who chase it. Courage, on the other hand, is visible. Courage disrupts the ordinary. Courage challenges norms. Courage inspires others to rise above their own fears. Courage leaves proof, not in material objects, not in accolades, but in the people who are stronger, braver, and more capable because you dared to act. Every time you choose courage, you plant a seed that grows far beyond your immediate reach. You create a chain reaction of influence, a ripple that carries forward even when you are no longer present to see it. It is easy to confuse courage with heroism. Heroism is often dramatic, loud, and celebrated. Courage is quiet, persistent, and demanding. Courage is choosing integrity when lying is easier. Courage is admitting failure when pretending to succeed is simpler. Courage is asking for help when pride says you should manage alone. Courage is doing the right thing even when the path is uncertain, unpopular, or uncomfortable. And it is this kind of courage, the steady, relentless kind, that creates a life that outlasts you. People who build lasting lives understand that comfort is fleeting, but courage compounds. One courageous decision leads to another. One act of bravery builds the muscle for the next. One refusal to compromise principles strengthens your influence and creates trust. Over time, courage becomes not just an action, but a pattern, a standard, a signal to others that this is the kind of life worth following, the kind of life worth emulating, and the kind of life worth continuing. Living courageously does not guarantee safety. It does not guarantee comfort. It does not even guarantee success in the conventional sense. But it guarantees presence, integrity, and impact. It guarantees that your life cannot be erased by circumstances. It guarantees that when people look back, they see someone who acted with purpose, not someone who simply coasted through existence. And that is the essence of leaving proof, not comfort. The world does not reward comfort with admiration. It rewards courage with attention, respect, and inspiration. The people who shape history are not those who protected themselves from risk. They are those who acted when action was hardest. They are those who embraced discomfort, who faced uncertainty, who endured criticism, and who chose to move forward when retreat was easier. And the legacy they leave is not measured in material terms, but in the lives they touched, the influence they created, and the courage they modeled. Courage is contagious. When you act bravely, you give permission for others to do the same. You show that fear can be managed, uncertainty can be navigated, and risk can be transformed into opportunity. You demonstrate that life is not a series of moments to be endured, but a series of decisions to be seized. And you leave a legacy that is far more enduring than comfort could ever provide. A legacy built not on ease, but on strength, resilience, and principle. Living a courageous life also means embracing vulnerability. It means showing up, knowing the outcome is uncertain. It means expressing your ideas, even when they might be rejected. It means confronting your weaknesses, asking questions, and admitting when you do not have all the answers. Courage and vulnerability are inseparable. One cannot exist without the other. And when they are combined, they create a presence that commands respect, inspires trust, and fosters loyalty. There will be moments when choosing courage feels overwhelming. Moments when you want to retreat into safety, to protect what is familiar, to avoid conflict or discomfort. But it is precisely in those moments that courage matters most. Because comfort may feel safe in the short term, but it leaves no mark. Courage leaves proof. Courage leaves evidence that your life had meaning. Courage leaves footprints that others can follow long after you are gone. The people who build lives that outlast them are not fearless. They are simply committed to action despite fear. They do not wait for conditions to be perfect. They do not wait for certainty, approval, or convenience. They act with courage, knowing that the most significant impact comes from embracing risk and stepping into the unknown. They understand that growth, influence, and legacy are forged in the discomfort of action, not the ease of inaction. Choosing courage over comfort also means prioritizing principle over popularity. It means standing up when others remain silent. It means challenging injustice even when it is easier to conform. It means making decisions guided by values, not by convenience. And it means understanding that those choices will define your legacy far more than the things you achieve while playing it safe. Ultimately, leaving proof of courage, not comfort, is about living intentionally. It is about creating a life that others can see, understand, and be inspired by. It is about leaving behind examples of integrity, bravery, and resilience that outlast your presence. It is about ensuring that when your time comes to an end, the world remembers not that you avoided discomfort, but that you acted with conviction. Not that you played it safe, but that you led with heart. Not that you preserved comfort, but that you left a trail of courage for others to follow. And that is how a life truly outlasts you. Not through wealth, not through status, not through ease, but through courage. Because comfort may make life feel good for a moment, but courage makes life meaningful forever. Every time you step into discomfort, every time you act despite fear, every time you choose principle over ease, you are leaving proof that your life mattered. You are creating a legacy that cannot be erased. You are building a life that continues to inspire, to guide, and to strengthen long after you are gone. As we come to the close of this conversation, there is one idea I want to leave you with. The measure of a life is not the moments you lived in comfort, the accolades you collected, or the victories you announced to the world. The measure of a life is the enduring impact you leave behind. It is the strength, courage, and wisdom you pass on to those who follow. It is the values you embed in the lives of others, the trust you build, and the inspiration you spark. A life that outlasts you is a life that becomes bigger than yourself. You see, we spend so much of our time chasing the visible markers of success, the promotions, the paychecks, the applause, but all of those things fade. They are temporary, they are fragile. And when life shifts, when circumstances change, when the spotlight moves on, they leave behind nothing but memories. True legacy, however, is invisible at first. It is in the small, deliberate choices you make when no one is watching. It is in the courage to act when inaction is easier. It is in the patience to invest in people, to nurture values, and to build systems that endure. It is in the decision to put principle over popularity, service over self-interest, and long-term impact over short-term gain. A life that outlasts you is not built overnight. It is forged over decades through consistency, integrity, and intentionality. It requires asking yourself the hard questions every day. Why does my life exist? Who am I here to serve? What am I willing to sacrifice to ensure that what I create survives beyond me? It requires courage, because doing the right thing is rarely the easiest choice. It requires vision, because you must act in a way that benefits people you may never meet. And it requires humility, because the most important work you do will often go unnoticed in the moment, only to reveal its true impact years from now. And yet, despite the effort, the discomfort, and the uncertainty, building a life that outlasts you is the most fulfilling journey you can take. It transforms how you live each day. It changes the way you measure success. It shifts your focus from what you can take to what you can give. It allows you to leave a legacy that is not dependent on fame, wealth, or recognition, but on something far more enduring: the lives you touch, the courage you model, the values you live, and the influence you embed into the world. So as you leave the space, I challenge you to think differently about your life. Think beyond yourself, beyond the next win, beyond the applause. Ask yourself how your actions today can create strength, hope, and opportunity for tomorrow. Ask yourself if the life you are building will inspire, empower, and guide those who come after you. And then act with courage, with intention, and with the understanding that what you build now has the power to outlast you. Because the truth is simple: we all leave footprints. The question is whether they will fade in the sand or endure like a path others can follow. Build a life that outlasts you. Build a life that matters. Build a life that gives, inspires, and strengthens long after you are gone. That is the legacy worth leaving. That is the life worth living.